everybody, to another episode of Our Only Human podcast. So, today, our topic is really mental health and the different type of mental disorders that, that's out
Maybe I'm foolish, maybe I'm blind, thinking
I don't know, with mental health, this definitely have to do with the well-being of your mind, your social well-being, the way that you think, the way that you feel, emotionally, physically, everything. And stuff. It really has to do with how you feel, how you think, and the way that you act, as mental and stuff. So, first question.
Alright, so on the first question, what main cause of mental health? Or what do you think the main cause of mental health?
Okay, so from my understanding and research that I've done for this topic, so that I'm informed, and so it definitely, so some depends on the type of mental disorder or mental distress, because our illnesses, because some mental illnesses are genetically passed on through family lines and stuff like that. You have some that are because of the environment that you're growing up in. You have some that are because of any kind of childhood trauma that you might experience and stuff like that. You have any kind of stressful events. For example, like somebody could pass away and such, that can break somebody mentally and such, and emotionally. Because I may have people where I really love, and you just can't imagine your life without them. And if at any point in time, of course, if at any point, if at any point in time anything should happen to them, whether they're seriously injured or if they get ill, or if their mind start to deteriorate as they're getting older and stuff like that, it starts to take a mental toll on you, and the way that you actually start to process it, because everybody process things differently and stress differently and stuff. So, what do you think?
Well, you have a point. Everybody process things different, Alright, so let's talk about anxiety. Alright, so for me, everybody have a little anxiety, you see? Especially people, as I say, pass on through genetic. So, me have a friend who think it.
Okay.
You think that pass on?
I'm not entirely sure if anxiety is something that is genetically based. I'm not entirely sure. We'll have to look at that one. But not every mental disorder or illnesses are genetically based. That's for sure. I'm not entirely sure about anxiety, so could be. Who knows? I don't know.
So you have suffer from that?
Well, I don't have anxiety disorder, but everybody has some sense of anxiety, because whenever, for example, doing this, for me that makes me very anxious, because I'm not used to talking to people in large groups or anything like that, because I'm more of an introverted kind of person. I like being by myself. I like doing things in small groups and stuff like that, and stuff. So things like these can make me feel a little bit nervous, and fearful, because you don't know what the feedback would be for you, and so that does make me anxious sometimes. But you have people who actually have anxiety disorder. They're just anxious all the time and stuff. It's not something that they can control and stuff, but there are medication that people that they take when they go to them doctors and such, and they go through cognitive behavior therapy and all kind of stuff like that, as far as I know.
Well, yeah, that's true. Probably, you always say that's true. Go through anxiety problem, Just interrupt.
Teased by the dog.
By the dog and Amoy. As I was saying before, my close friend suffer from anxiety, And I think that has been something really grow, because in terms of literally, me never understand anxiety till he might tell me about it, you see. So in terms of, I'm probably afraid to go up on the road at night, or he just might be killing or robbing or they look foolish then, you see me? But me I see it as anxiety, I see it as afraid, I might use it
as an excuse
to say anxiety, you see me?
No. I mean, you wouldn't understand. The thing is, with mental illnesses and stuff like that, or any kind of mental disorders and stuff, the persons who are not actually experiencing it at times, it's very hard to comprehend what that person is going through. For example, if I think about persons with schizophrenia and stuff like that, we who, me and you meaning, who don't really have any kind of severe mental disorder right now and such, when we can't comprehend what it feels like to be a person with schizophrenia, because they have all sort of things that's going on mentally, and such, where they feel like someone is telling them to do certain things. They're hearing voices in their heads and stuff.
So you know my business?
No, I love Law and Order and CSI and
What?
stuff like that. So I've seen things like that. Exactly. Exactly. So I have had these kind of experiences based on TV shows or based on movies and such, and not necessarily people, because like I said, I don't really socialize that much. So, I am familiar with these things based on what I read, based on what I learn and such, because I did a course in psychology at school and so I have to educate myself. I have to educate myself in certain things and such, especially given the fact that with the kind of line of business that I'm going to go ahead and go off in and stuff like that. You're dealing with all different kind of people, so you have to know how to talk to people and stuff like that, and such. But anxiety, as you were saying, your friend had it, and you thought he was just making up excuses, so he wasn't participating in certain activities which you are thinking, so he just no longer go and stuff like that. But that's really something that he is experiencing and going through himself, and it's very difficult sometimes to articulate that with your friends, your people and such. I tell them to look here.
Especially if you're male.
Exactly, and such. So especially males, when males, I believe that whenever males go through any kind of difficulty in their lives, they don't really express that.
Yeah, that's right.
So, sometimes they could be going through some things and they're struggling with these things by themselves, and such. It all comes down to even things like suicide. You don't know if somebody was suffering through any kind of mental distress, that could be causing them. The person could be stressed out, they could have been suffering with depression. They don't know, they didn't even go get tested with it and stuff like that. They were just always having those kind of behaviors, and people think that, oh, that's just such a state,
Especially in Jamaica. They tell them, say, oh dog, I'm free to do that, dog. I say, man, you're a batty boy, brother. You're a girl, brother. You see me? So, as I said, male to male or man to man, you don't know how to express your feelings to another man in person. A meeting that starts from you not growing up with a father. Most of them grow up with a father. So, you know how to express your feelings to other male. You get me? Unless you are talking about woman.
Yes. But the thing is that in Jamaica, as far as I know, with persons that I know, and that's I'm telling all these things based on what I know. I'm not speaking, I'm not giving no professional advice or anything like that. Okay. It's from my knowledge, from what I know. So, from what I know and such, within our society here in Jamaica, mental health awareness, that's not something that is actually being taken seriously in Jamaica. A lot of persons don't really, especially parents, when their child comes to them and say, hey mommy, I'm really struggling here, I'm going through certain stress here, they're like, what they stress you? They are pitney, all they do at school, they get up a man, yam, all kind of something, they don't really take that as a serious thing, and that is very, as a person who would be going through those kind of stuff, it's hard because you feel like you're alone and you don't have anyone to talk to and you do these things by yourself. And such, which is what sometimes just the cases where you have children, where you see on the news, you see children commit suicide and stuff. You have no idea what could be causing it. The parents don't know what could be causing it and such and that. And sometimes it's not that they don't know really, because at some point I feel like your child should be feeling comfortable enough to can reach out to you and say, hey, mommy, may I go through something right now? You're supposed to can listen to her. I think so. Yeah, I think
go to the video because the mother did not to bring children, but they go to the video.
Sometimes, yeah, it's all about, sometimes you want to talk to your parents about some things that they don't listen to and you feel like you're alone. So sometimes the child can't talk to the parent, that parent will be very dismissive. I know a lot of Jamaican parents are very dismissive in that regard when the child comes to you and express certain things to you and such. Like I said, hey mommy, I'm tired, like it was a rough day and such. You have a response, You tired too, so yeah, so I still have to go cook, I still have to clean, go clean up your room, do your homework, all sort of stuff like that. And it's difficult, especially as a young person, even as an adult too, but especially for the kids when they're going through these things, they don't know that they are suffering these kind of mental disorders or anything like that because for one, they're not being diagnosed with it, because they're not going out to get tested, they don't know they have it. You know, and stuff like that.
That's something for diagnosed.
Mental illnesses and disorders and stuff are things that are being diagnosed. You don't know if you suffer with anxiety, and so you might go on the internet and see symptoms of anxiety that relates to you, but you can't self-diagnose yourself to say, oh, I have anxiety. You're supposed to, go and check that out and such, and once you speak to your doctor and so forth, you can get certain advice from them to say, okay, well, these tablets will help to reduce, the level of anxiety that you feel, or you can come here with therapy sessions and so.
Yeah, I just say, we must face anxiety problem or depression or whatever it is, and nobody's prepared for. So that's why I mean, most get a fit meal, turn to either weed or turn to smoke it overall, you see me? And probably drugs, probably coke, but not in Jamaica, probably nobody take coke. You see me? So probably that's them second option we try to, because I'm not against it, nobody to talk to.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, mental health is something that is very, very important and such, because sometimes it's the weirdest thing and the hardest thing, especially to be in an environment with persons that you think that you can relate to, you can talk to, and you're close to. At least that's what you're thinking and such. But you feel so lonely, as if nobody not really understand you, or nobody not really accept what you're saying, because it's so difficult, honestly, sometimes to really talk to people and say to them, hey, I feel this kind of. I mean, sometimes you feel away, sometimes you feel lonely, and you feel depressed and such, and you really never have nobody to talk to. For example, when our friend Tikori passed away and so forth, me definitely did go through a huge stage of just never wanting to talk to nobody, never wanting to do anything, because that was somebody who was close to me, and I have never experienced loss in that kind of way before, in that magnitude, like that, because nobody close to me that way has never passed away before. So that was my first experience with death, and me never handled that well, because I was in denial for a very long time. My grieving process was very different and stuff, you get me? And sometimes you have to, and sometimes you try to talk to somebody, you want to talk to somebody, you're like, whom I can really talk to?
Sometimes you don't know how to
Exactly, you don't know what to say, you don't know how to even start the conversation, and such. And then even if you do feel like, say, alright, I'm going to talk to a person, you're like, but will I be judged? And such. Will a person judge me? Exactly, will they look at me differently and say, so all of a sudden, I'll know him just come with them kind of thing, what do I say? Humans can be very judgmental, very. So it's very hard sometimes to really find somebody where you really can trust and talk and express your feel. And then you have some hundreds of persons who use those experiences and feelings against you.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
stuff, So there are many kind of things. There are many kind of aspects of mental health and such, because it definitely affect the way that you feel, the way that you think, and the way that you act and stuff. So.
Yeah, most of it, I can agree with most of it, because nowadays you don't trust somebody when like a close friend, if you do trust them, you don't want to tell them certain things, and that you need to tell them literally the full story for them to understand where you come from.
Exactly, sometimes you not even understand. There's a saying that I really love, but persons like, sometimes you're on your journey and persons might not understand the experience that you're going through on your journey, but it's not for them to understand, because it's not their experience. It's for you to understand, because you will go through this path, and such. Nobody now will really 100% understand how you're feeling or what you're going through.
Who feels it knows it.
Exactly. So unless they know, unless they know how it feels to grieve with the loss of somebody, then they can be able to provide.
So all of them know to, they're not going to really know, because everybody, isn't it? So all of them know, they're not going to know. Is it? So which part of your life you have experienced the most mental breakdown or mental illness? Which one like you experience that?
Me personally, like I said, when Tipper
Tipper,
died,
yeah.
that was the hardest part for me because that was very unexpected.
Yeah, especially
That was
at a young
very
age.
unexpected and such. And given the fact that recently, before his passing and such, we literally started to actually talk back as friends and such. And we're like, okay, we're gonna reconnect and stuff like that. And then you're hopeful for this reconciliation. This friendship building back up again because we were friends for a while and stuff like that. And then you're saying, alright, cool, because we're missing friendship and miss being around you and talking to you and stuff like that. So, when you finally do come to me and talk to me and say, okay, we can, talk and stuff like that and such, I was like, yay, okay, and then a few days later and pass on, it was very difficult for me to process because it was someone that I cared about and stuff, and nobody at the point, except for me, because he was very close to you as well, never would have understand how me feel in that regards, because then it's not like saying me didn't express nobody how my true feelings for this person was, I said to them, say, hey, we didn't really, really love and appreciate you as a person, as a friend and stuff like that, and then, there is no way for somebody to really, for any of my friends really, to understand what I was going through, at least for me at the time, I didn't think anybody would, so I didn't really express that to anybody and stuff, and we just go through and such, and just process it in the best way that I could and such. But try not to make it affect my day-to-day activities and stuff like that. But there are still moments of sadness, especially when you're by yourself and you start to think about it.
Worse than timing.
Exactly, because when you're around people and such, there are things and persons to distract you away from your thoughts, and such when you're going through this kind of grieving. And then when you're alone, and then and such, that's when all the thoughts keep coming to you. That's when you're thinking about everything. Like what could I have done to prevent this? Sometimes there's a point when you're grieving and such, you're like, could I have done something? To prevent this and stuff. And such. Could I have called him first, reach out to him and say, hey, what's up, and such, and probably it would have changed the events of that day that led up to that, or something. Things like that, you really start thinking about in your times of loneliness, and so some persons go apart when they start blaming themselves with all kind of things, even things that's very much out of their control and such. They're like, yeah, but if I could, I would have. And it would have changed this, it would have made this different, things would have happened differently and stuff. So yeah, it's a lot. But that was my hardest moment. At least that was my hardest moment mentally and stuff. Other than that, school stressful. Especially when you have like 5 courses one time. 5 courses one time in college. That's a lot, okay? Because you have 5 different assignments due in the same week. Some of them on the same day. That's a lot of stress, especially a working person. And you're still girl.
Oh my god, I'm making my brain build for college.
Listen, I sat down. I was doing a mobile app development course, and we're learning a new programming language called Kotlin, right? So that's a language that we're learning to write these applications, to build these apps with. And so, now, because the language is new, I'm not finding a lot of resources, to explain to me how I can make certain concepts work with Kotlin. And so, I went through a whole day. I did not sleep trying to get this assignment done. Sit up and such. I was supposed to go to the hairdresser to braid my hair. And I went there and I had to wait for a little while, and this was me right on the couch the whole time. And then I had to go back home because I'm like, okay, I'm rescheduling because I'm way too tired. And I still didn't get the something done, and so I still didn't get the app to work. And I was like, you know what, I give up. I can't bother. Let it just done.
Create the app from
scratch. Yeah, I was developing the app from scratch. And so, and I was stressed.
So dating app, as in, you didn't create app?
I've not created a dating app. What I was creating, but you could, and stuff. You can't do anything. And so you just have to learn how to do. And
So how long can I finish the course?
I did it last semester, and such. But with this assignment, I did not get the app to run. It was giving me errors. However, most of my code was correct. And I was thinking that I'm like a fail because it don't work, whatever. I never submit no time, I just accept a failing grade. I mean, I said, hell no, I sit up one whole night and struggle and go through all of this and such. I'm actually submitted and I got 92.5%.
Well done. You know Taboo?
Huh?
Taboo.
The strip club?
Yeah, you know Badu? You have app in Badu, you know? It's a dating app. You know, create one. Well, no, we can't talk about that. Want to create a dating app for me? You know? Alright, that's what I'm saying. No one knows. No, but we really can create an app for you?
I can create an app, but I deleted it. I'm very stupid. I have to download it back.
So we need to talk more, you know? I have some business plan idea, you know? So.
I do web designing as well.
What is this? Someone need a web for my channel, let you know? So we can talk more business on that. So if you don't want to do web design, you want a web design, here is truly. You want the app design, here is truly.
No, I'm not set me up with the app. Yes, the whole
So tell them all that, the web design on that.
No, I love web designing. To me, that is my passion. I literally will sit down throughout my whole time of school break that I did, and so I just started do a lot of websites.
So like if you do a web design, you're not charging it. Like first you just work on it.
Hell, I'm charging! But I'm charging by the little bit.
Yeah, me said dear.
You know, and such might take off like 50%.
50%, you know? Yeah, you know? We talk about it, you know?
Love life.
Alright, so as I said, the topic is anxiety, mental health, and you express all of your feeling about mental health. So why does say the best way to get rid of mental health and the best way to cope with it?
Honestly, me personally, and from the research done, it's better to seek professional help. Yeah, it's better to seek professional help. Especially, for example, you can go ahead.
Me honestly think we none of them need to do that.
Why?
When is to see professional, we about to?
So a professional, you go to a psychologist or a psychiatric.
Alright, so we go to psychiatrist. Wait a minute, listen, just give advice. How much can do that? Any other human can do it.
But they are trained. Am I not going to give you?
But most people in get them. None of them are going to psychiatrist. Forget a mental
and how the society whole society there's a lot of things.
Everybody about you mental health.
Most of them people in Jamaica need to go. There's
a lot of things.
But them are smoking, you know?
It's not even about
When you think about I rub up them and niggle a stress card.
when you think people about, even with the crime level and such, you have, for example, think of a young, because a lot of the persons that you're seeing right now that are committing crimes are young persons, not the older persons.
No, alright,
hold on.
Alright, so all them young people that commit crime, me don't feel a mental health cause that.
You know that.
Me feel what cause that is going up with the father. So you need that. You're gonna need a male figure.
Exactly.
Your mother alone can do. Maybe it's an age is like a female who know how to
But
raise a
that
man.
affects you mentally. That affects you mentally. So,
Yeah,
alright,
that's
for a
true,
person
but
like
don't want
that,
it.
for a person like that, they can start develop abandonment issues. For example, the father left them at a young age, and so, for example, the father was there, and the father left them and stuff. You know, some children take it to heart when their parents leave. They start think, was it me? Did I do something wrong? Mother, I'm having a podcast.
If you're new to my channel, please don't forget to subscribe.
You know this. What you talking about? Scratch.
No. Please remember to subscribe, like, share.
I'm a fat lady.
This topic is about mental health, isn't it? And everybody got to have a mental health in their lifetime, isn't it? And we just share our story on it. So please to comment below if you know how to do similar. Please, isn't it? What were you saying?
So as I was saying, some persons, so they start from scratch, but this I get cut. So some persons,
Are you able
some persons, you know, start develop abandonment issues when a parent, for example, if a parent starts to leave them. Some children, not all, some children start to think, did I do something wrong? Was it that did I not wasn't I not deserving of my father's love? Why did he leave me? Some children didn't even think to the fact that it could have been a case where the father left for any other reason. Some children take these things to heart, meaning mentally, it affects them mentally, and they start develop abandonment issues where they start to feel as though they can't really rely on persons because that person.
It's a relationship. I think that are different. So. Me think growing up in the ghetto as a young child, me think the parent them is to be blamed.
Blamed for what?
Not raising child.
But sometimes it's not. That's what I'm saying. Sometimes
Yeah, but
it's not.
no, I know. When you're young, you're young like about 9, 10. All you just want is a listening ears. So once that somebody can listen, because remember, so we are ghetto. We're not money for keeping a psychiatrist. We're not money to pay for that. We don't want to pay for a session with a psychiatrist. You see me? So if you have somebody listening ears, because if you get talk to me about your problem, yeah, that feel better.
Yeah,
you so
but will you be giving me advice that will be helping me?
Not really, but
exactly. It's sometimes just listening. Sometimes listening is good. You want somebody to listen to you, but you also want somebody to help you. That's why I'm telling you, so that you can help me. And so, if you're not professionally educated on this kind of thing, you don't go through day-to-day basis with people that have these kind of things.
If you're professional, but go through some of the experience from it. I don't know what to do.
But are you coping well enough that you can give me advice to help me cope? Older than me, then I'm not good enough. Older than me, then I'm not good enough.
If you are 15 and me at you're 20, right? And you are going through a mental problem, and me been through a couple of mental problems. You can get good advice on how to cope with it.
Yes,
but the fact that you're younger and you're younger.
But that's the thing. You think there's times when you think that you have healed from a mental situation, from any kind of trauma, any kind of stress, and you really haven't. And you could be giving me advice on it and such to say, okay, probably can do this thing. I'm not saying that normal people can help you. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying it is also good to get a professional to help. And such. But the thing is that with the person, because the professionals have experiences with these.
Most of them have experience.
What do you mean? They're not experiencing it personally, But you're going through every day having sessions with persons who suffer with anxiety, who suffer with. It's all about experience. They have experiences with these cases, so they're able to properly aid you.
So much on the matter of psychiatrist. Listen.
But that's a show. But that's
listen. And then say, come tomorrow and we talk again. If you next month, come tomorrow talk, me do all that talk, I don't know listen.
That's everybody different. Yeah, everybody different. You have some people operate it that way with it. You have some people operate it that way. But you also have some people, most people, you have people who actually talk to you and give you advice.
So you want to go to psychiatrist? You know nobody?
No. As far as I know, I'm not on a trauma right now. That much.
So if you have trauma, you got a psychiatrist? I talk to you.
If it's something that me can't deal with and people around me can't help me with it, then yes, my guys seek other assistance and so. I'm not saying that going to a professional have to be a first move, because as I said, when sometimes you just want to express the way that you feel. You want somebody to listen to you. You want somebody to help you by giving you advice as well. If I'm talking to you about how I'm feeling and stuff like that, and it's not helping me and stuff in any kind of way, yes, you're giving me good advice. Yes, you're being there for me and stuff like that. But sometimes it's more than just listening or having a conversation. Sometimes it's way more than that, and such. And these professionals and such, they're being trained on how to handle these kind of persons with different type of mental disorders and stuff like that. So I feel like yes, I can talk to you about it and such, but if I feel like I'm not being helped, if I'm not being helped at all and such, then I can definitely go and seek more help in that regards with
psychiatrist? Rich.
No wrong for going to therapy,
So if you go to one psychiatrist and you don't work with, you go next one?
You can go So wait, if you go to a doctor,
No, doctor different.
if they are doctors.
Yeah, but hold on.
There's a different type. There's a different type of doctor. But they're doctors. If you go to a doctor and you know, for example, me, I have issues breathing, and I have problems with my eyes. Whereas there's yeah, but the thing is that I go to a few doctors before, and they're saying to me, there's nothing wrong with your eyes are fine and such. Probably it's just stress, you need to sleep. Fine. I'm saying I'm still feeling these kind of things. Sometimes my eyes jump and behave strange and such. I don't know what that is and such. I will go and I will anyways I will go and seek a second opinion and such because there are times where a doctor might not see something, and when you go and get a second opinion, that person might be able to see what that doctor person is. So there's nothing wrong. Exactly. So there's nothing wrong with a second opinion. That's what I'm saying. If you go to one psychologist or psychiatrist and they're not helping you, you can say, okay, this is personally not for me, and try another one. You don't have to give up completely. And so you can try another person. There's nothing to say that
so when you really know,
the first person.
When you really know it's alright, you got to first psychiatrist. When you really know it's alright, you start a problem. When you feel say or you know that.
When you start, let me tell you, these are just my thoughts. So I'm thinking that you're being helped when you realize changes in your life. For example, when you realize that there are certain things that are changing for you. Your daily routines are now more organized than before. You're not as anxious as before. You're not. Persons will post-traumatic stress disorder and such, PTSD and such. They're not thinking so often about the traumatic event, and such. They're actually overcoming it. They're learning to accept that this happened to me and I can move on from it, and so that things like that. When you start to heal, that's when you know that it's working and such. When you start to realize a change in the way that you're thinking, the way that you feel, the way that you're acting and stuff, that's when you know that this is helping. At least for me, that's what I think, that's what I believe.
You're right on something. Yeah, I think that's right on something.
That's what I believe. That's how you know it will work. Because how you know a relationship will work for you.
You still together?
But that's the thing, you can still live together with a person that could be a toxic relationship. It still could be be with the person such, and you realize it's just codependency. You just get with the person because loneliness, you just don't want to be alone.
I think relationship different. I think relationship you have 2 person in a relationship with you see me? And you have one person you can go through in a relationship to know if that work or not. In a toxic relationship, all us need just have a conversation and an agreement. So once you have a conversation about the problem we have, the issue, we can come to agreement. And we can't come to agreement, we can just go in separate ways. You see me? Yeah, but I think most relationship have to do with not communicating. Yeah. You have been in a toxic relationship?
I believe that I have had some childhood trauma. Because, trust I believe, the relationship that I'm in right now, I've been with my partner for 7 years and such. This is my longest relationship and such. I was never, how I was growing up and such. For one, I thought growing up and such, like when I was in high school, and this in high school people actually know start to know develop feelings, people start to say, oh, man, I'm a crush on a person, them start to discover their sexuality and stuff like that. For me in high school, nope, me never interested in sex, none at all. To me it was the most disgusting thing that could have ever happened from the planet Earth. To me, it was just disgusting.
Well,
to me, it was unsanitary.
That's point of view.
That's what I'm saying. To me, it was unsanitary. It was unnecessary. It was just that was my
thing. Alright, so I'm always say, man have sex with girl with them man have sex with girl with them see. Is my one have sex with man.
As I was saying, that for me, it was just a no-no and such. And I was the kind of person where I don't trust very easily, and I don't allow persons to hurt me and stick around and such. I used to be the kind of person where if I'm in a relationship with somebody and we have a first, we even argue, so the very first time we argue, that's a breakup for me. Because me never know how, I don't know how to cope, you know, at that time I don't know how to cope with those kind of negative things, and me feel like I never need all of that and such. I mean, the good times, you know, and such, yeah, and such. It's nice to, you know, have somebody that can talk and be like, oh, this is my boyfriend, and such like that, you know, and, but to me, once the argument starts, I just say, alright, bye.
Well, me the best thing for to a young teenager, male is sex. You see, because in high school, I'm on the other place, you know, we see girls over like, and girls sexy girls, kick girls, single, you know, we have a girl over like, so we have one have sex. Plus, peer pressure was one of the main reasons why most young male have sex. Because if you come on and your three cousins and three friends and say, yo, you nah fuck, you're going to nah fuck chuck, this and that. So peer pressure was one the main thing young male, I mean got through when it comes to sex. You see?
Yeah, I didn't have that experience.
I was a alright looking guy, you know? The tall and everything, so.
Like some relationship is all about sex.
High school relationship is about sex. We don't know nothing about love.
The thing is, if
And
you're
a
not,
high school relationship alone is all about
yeah,
No, I know what your high school is about. Mama say young, you don't know nothing about love.
That's not true.
Me never know about love, but at the teenager, in high school, you know about love?
Well, me know about love.
In high school?
Yes.
So you didn't love one in high school?
No, I was never.
Okay,
I've never. No,
exactly. You loved one in
I've
high
never been. I was never
You loved
in
one in high
love.
school?
The person that I'm with now is the first person that I've ever been in love with.
I see that.
I have loved person before. That's different from being in love
Yeah,
with
that's
somebody, right? And so the person that I'm with now, this is the first person I'm experiencing being in love with. I was never in love with anybody before and stuff. I was never intimate with, you know, anybody in those kind of previous relationships and such and stuff. I mean, I go through these kind of experiences with this person, you know, and stuff like that. So yeah, like it's I don't know, it's all about, to me, it's all about the person. It's all about the person, but because
No, it's not
me
about
is different
it.
because
It's all about the feeling. High school,
we never have no nature. It was in my last few months of high school when I actually start to actually, as person would say, have normal feelings, normal teenage feelings, and that was when I was with my
When I was in
high
ninth
school
grade.
partner at the time and such, and that's when I actually start, you know, say, oh, I actually want to start right here. I actually want to touch right here. You know, that was my first experience with that. Never had them kind of thing before.
In high school, for me, in 9th grade, I don't know, I'm 6th grade, I'm virgin. So in 9th grade, I was considered a young man, I would say, you know, started having sex, you know, with multiple partners, you know, use both now and then, you know, but, you know, it felt,
No one there?
no, but for real though, the feeling is there, because I know so you're a teenager, you have sexual feeling towards the girl, because they when them off, you know. But I must say, peer pressure really pushed me to really go out and have sex with me, because when I tell me, I say, yo, me and the man married as teenagers, I say, yo, I say, who can let the most girl and who can do this, with that, and do that. You see me? So this is start from.
I guess the reason why I was so guarded as a teenage person, because I was very guarded.
And probably, I should have friend me early there, probably nobody didn't friend me, I push it up, so I have sex. You know what I mean?
Nobody gonna pressure me for nothing. I know that.
One life,
I'm very, no, it's all about you knowing yourself. I'm very.
You know about your peer pressure?
Not
from?
Yes, yeah. Like for example, no, meaning not sexually, but yes, I've been through peer pressure before. Okay, I was that kind of. To me, I'm realizing that I was the kind of person who wanted to please everybody and such. Like me, never want nobody to vex with me in any kind of way and such. So if somebody would say to me,